having served this board 17 years and no kids in school, no skin in the game whatsoever, that never bothered me to pay my share. I gotta tell you, what we're looking at now, it's starting to bother me.
Voters in Winhall at March town meeting will face a decision many will find difficult. The town school board will be submitting a budget that calls for about a 30-cent tax increase. And that's the good news. An alternative would have been one that required a 50-cent tax hike. But to get to the lower tax rate, the school board had to drop paying full tuition to Burton Academy, and instead plans to pay only the statewide tuition average, which currently is about $2,000 less than what BBA is charging for sending districts, like Winhall is at present. But since Winhall would now no longer be a sending district, assuming it adopts the school board's proposed budget, the tuition rate Winhall parents would have to pay would be the higher out-of-district rate, which is more like $3,000 above the statewide number. A deficit of about $250,000 plus an unanticipated influx of students into the district, nearly 20 more than expected from last year, are driving the projected tax increase. Normally, most school districts would consider an increase in its student population a plus, as overall declines in the number of elementary and secondary school students drive costs up. But that's not the case with districts that offer school choice, as Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union School Superintendent Jackie Wilson explained.
It's a little counterintuitive because you'll hear across the state that declining enrollment is really impacting the cost of our budgets. And in this case, in a full choice district, increasing enrollment really hurts your budget because they're not able to take a system that can absorb those kids, therefore equalizing their equalized pupil number and reducing their costs. Because if those 30 extra kids went into a public school system, because of our current state where we really have low teacher to student ratios, we would probably be able to absorb all of those students in the system without any additional cost. But that is not the case when you're full choice. When you're full choice, that kid moves in, you are paying that tuition rate. So there's no way to have any cost benefit from that student moving into that system.
Winhall is a school choice district from kindergarten through 12th grade and does not operate its own schools. Of the roughly 60 students in the secondary or high school age bracket, between 35 and 40 of them go to Burton at present. Voters will have the final say on all of this at town meeting, where the school board's budget could be amended or changed. Mark Tashian, the headmaster at Burton Academy, noted that when a town is a sending district, it gets preferential treatment for student admissions.
So I get that they're in a very, very difficult position. Burton is in a difficult position too, because if Winhall decides not to be a sending town anymore, then, it changes the economics for those Burton families, I think, pretty significantly. First of all, we offer a sending town rate that next year will be right around $17,000. If you're not a sending town, then the private pay rate is a little over $18,000. So they're rejecting a reduced price that comes from being a sending town. And that gap needs to be paid by the families. In addition, we always give priority for space to families from sending towns. And what we're finding is that more and more families are coming to Burton. We're growing. We're at 710 students as we sit here right now, and a year ago we were at 685, and I expect us to continue to grow. We always give space priority to sending towns, and if Winhall were to renounce its sending town status, we would no longer be able to do that. I've been asked, is there a special deal we can do? And there again, we're in a box. We have a responsibility to Manchester and Dorset, all the towns in the Taconic and Green School District. And in fact, any of our sending towns, we have a responsibility and a commitment to treat all of them equitably. And equitably means we really don't have the liberty to make special deals for one town over another. It doesn't pass the fairness test.
The school board struggled at its meeting on January 8th, where it put the finishing touches on its budget, to thread the needle between the tax rate issue and cutting back spending to only the statewide tuition average.
That it's going to create a real hardship for a lot of families that just aren't, I mean, particularly families with multiple kids, that they just can't afford it. And I think the natural result of that is you're going to have families leaving Winhall. You know, maybe not tomorrow or in the next 6 months, but I think this is going to drive families out of Winhall, and maybe that's what the town needs to get the budget in control. You know, suddenly we're less attractive, but you know, then we're just another Vermont town too.
Although we are probably one of the most unique towns in Vermont, bar none, in terms of how our enrollment just keeps, you know? I mean, it's what every town on some level would dream of. And the crazy other part is that we're paying a boatload, obviously, in taxes, and it's not coming back to Winhall.
Right. The problem is the tax structure is just not benefit us
No.
in any way, shape, or form.
Nope.
The school board is also wrestling with another issue, finding a merger partner to satisfy the requirements of Act 46, the state's education consolidation law. They've been involved in a couple of merger talks with other school districts, but none have panned out so far. The tax question has been one that has hampered those efforts. Dean Giannotti, a member of the Winhall School Board, explains.
Try to make a merger happen with someone. It's been very difficult to find willing partners. We are a full choice K through 12 district, which makes us pretty unique. And so therefore it's pretty difficult to find dance partners that have similar layout as far as how they tuition their students. So we've been working really hard to do that, and so far have been unsuccessful.
The problem is that Winhall's tax rate would be shared among their merger partners. That's what helped sink discussions between Winhall, Stratton, Sandgate, and Arlington, the latest merger proposition that Winhall has been involved with.
The merged tax rate would have seen pretty significant increases for everyone who isn't Winhall, excluding Arlington because they're not part of the tax structure because of the 301 structure. But Sandgate and Stratton would have seen a pretty significant tax increase. You're looking at something like 20 or 30 cents increase for them. The merged tax rate would have been very high. Every year has been a difficult year for Winhall, at least since I've been on the board. We, the board, go to the voters every year and ask for concession. And every year the voters understand where we're coming from and why it's important that we make this concession or that concession. And this year, we've really come to a crossroads where there aren't really any concessions left for us to make. And so what this board is really concerned with as far as Winhall going forward is after this year, if we add 29 kids like we did this year, then there is no discussion about what do we do to get the tax rate down. The tax rate will go up. And it will go up every year as long as we continue to add kids. And we will have no way of mitigating that increase. So that's really what this year is about for us, is going to the voters and explaining the situation that we're in and hopefully communicating to the entire community, those people with students in school and those without, that we have to make a decision as a town about what we're going to do going forward, because what we do right now, the current model we're using, is not sustainable.
The school board is also proposing in the town's warning that future votes on school choice be conducted by Australian ballot instead of off the floor, as has been the case in the past. All told, it's likely to be an interesting town meeting in Winhall this year. For the GNAT TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.